So an NFT is a non-fungible token, and meaning it's sort of, say, one of a kind, and most of them are built on Ethereum, and these tokens represent ownership in an asset. And in the case of NFTs, often that's digital art, and so it is like an authenticity or provenance of ownership in this digital image. And these tokens, they often live on the Ethereum blockchain, and they've sort of exploded in interest because I think it's, once the NFT format came around, you could build an asset around digital art. Prior to NFTs, digital artists would build digital art, but how do you sell something that you can't really prove the level of scarcity or ownership? And NFTs bring scarcity to digital art the same way Bitcoin brought scarcity to digital money, which is otherwise ones and zeros, which are plentiful. And so this, to us, it's sort of, so we bought, let me just step back for a second. We bought Nifty Gateway, a marketplace for NFTs, about 2 years ago. And I think when we were doing sort of diligence and learning about the space, we met with people in the NFT space. And first of all, the energy was insane, and the passion and the conviction of these individuals. And it felt a lot like Bitcoin in 2012 when we found Bitcoin, and it felt like this thing hiding in plain sight. And we realized this was a frontier of crypto we had to be a part of and try and build into. And I think in hindsight, it sort of makes so much sense, in as much as that everything's moving online. Why not art? There's trillions of dollars of art in the offline, real, like, meat space world. And there must be some version of digital art. And the challenge had always been scarcity and really ownership. How do you actually build scarcity around these assets? So I think that, in short, NFTs are digital art, and the sort of the one, I think, great example that sort of highlights what's been going on in this movement is this artist Beeple. He had been doing digital art every day for 13 years, called his Everydays, and every day he would just put up this piece. He never sold any of it. He couldn't monetize it. How can you sell a picture that you post on Instagram? And then he did his first drop ever of NFTs on Nifty Gateway, and all of a sudden people were, because they could sort of prove ownership.
When you say a drop, you mean he just offered it for sale?
Exactly. Sorry. So think of it like an art show. We call them NFT drops, but think of it, people showed in Nifty Gateway, and we like to say that the internet is the NFTs gallery, because literally anybody in the planet can come to Nifty Gateway and bid on or buy these NFTs. And I can't remember exactly what his first drop did. Color, did his first drop do 4 million, or was that his second drop? Either way,
second drop did 4 million, which at the time was just unheard of.
Right.
And then Christies contacted him and say, hey, do you want to sell an NFT? We saw what you did, your second drop on Nifty Gateway. Do you want to sell an NFT in an auction and be put in the same lot with Andy Warhol? And of course, we know that people said yes, and then that NFT went on to.
What is Christie's connection to Nifty Gateway? Like, why does he need Christie's?
So Christie's was uninvolved in the first two drops at Nifty Gateway. My point with bringing them up is that they saw his success on Nifty Gateway, and then they invited him to auction with them the piece that sold for 69 million. So
that was not sold on Nifty Gateway. That was just
not.
Okay.
But of course, the merchandise of NFTs, Beeple NFTs from drop 1 and 2 on Nifty Gateway traded up and a lot because of what happened.
Of the Christie's auction.
That price signal in Christie's.
And I think one of the most interesting things about NFTs is that when an artist sells an NFT, and that that digital art sells again, that they actually get a cut of that second sale? Almost like I mean, is this essentially a royalty that lasts through time? So no matter how many times a piece exchanges hands, that artist is monetizing that sale, like really without having to do anything. Is that?
That's right. And it's programmatic. And so if you think of like artist estates, like the Warhol estate, for example, or Basquiat, once that piece is sold initially, the artist never sees any of that. And it's incredible. I mean, it's dramatic if you think of the artists where their pieces are now trading for tens of millions of dollars, right?
Right.
And generally, you see very little, if anything, of that, or the artist and or their estate. And so that's a huge level of empowerment for creators. Not only can they not only can digital artists now monetize that medium, but really all artists have a level of empowerment and can go direct literally to anybody in the world with these assets. And they're easily transferable. They really go anywhere the internet goes. It's super cool. What's also interesting, I think, about the NFT boom is that it's not necessarily like traditional fine art collectors. I mean, there are some of those folks in the mix, but a lot of it is younger individuals who made their wealth in crypto or technology and realized that this is like a frontier of art. And I think the person who bought the Beeple at auction, Metakovan, I think he's an Indian computer science guy who got early into Ether, was living in Canada, now is in Singapore, and he's sort of a crypto whale. And I think something like 250 crypto whales signed up at Christie's to bid on the Beeple piece.
Incredible.
You're not currently in the Christie's network
Right.
of buyers, right? And
right.
So when Tyler was doing a lot of the early outreach in Nifty Gateway and pinging artists on Twitter, DMing them on Twitter or Instagram, and trying to explain what this medium was and why they should try building an NFT. I think there was definitely at times like, or you talk to people in the art world, there's like this like resistance or inability to wrap their head around this idea that the art should be viewed in a gallery or exist in four corners in a studio in Chelsea. And the reality is like, I don't know that NFTs will necessarily appeal to much of that world, but between millennials and Gen Z and crypto whales and people in tech and whatnot, it's this huge market as it is, right? We're already selling paintings for tens of millions of dollars. Whether or not, you get converts from the existing art world or not, it's not really necessary for, I think, this medium to flourish.
When do we start to see hard assets? I mean, when I think of NFTs, I mean, to me, more broadly, it's a virtual deed, right? Instead of being something fungible, it's non-fungible. It's represented by, a virtual token. How long do you think it'll be before like every stock in the stock market is traded globally through some kind of digital token, or, physical real estate is somehow tradable through digital tokens? I mean, just sort of like how do you see the NFT concept extending maybe to the physical world and not just the digital art world?
Yeah, that's a really, it's a great question. And I think a year or two ago, we spent a lot of time thinking about how do you sort of tokenize real world assets like real estate and businesses, and bring them, or the representation of them, into a blockchain. So think about going into a coffee shop, you use like a stable coin like the Gemini dollar to buy your cup of coffee, and then you decide, hey, I really like this coffee shop, I'm just going to buy a token of in my local corner coffee shop. And I think the challenge there is that likely is a security. And so there is a compliance overhead around that. And I think it slows down in terms of, you can't build as fast. You have to figure out how this technology works into that framework. But all that being said, there's trillions of dollars of like private businesses and assets that aren't on, exchanges and aren't traded with that kind of liquidity and price discovery that I think over time will be tokenized and traded, and it's going to reduce friction. It's going to increase price discovery, and even allow you. I mean, even in the pandemic is, I think, a good example where I contributed to a number of GoFundMe pages of like local businesses that I use, and I said, oh, they've got a GoFundMe page, I'll just donate. If you said, hey, you can just buy a share in the business, or buy, they can issue equity and you can buy a token, that's awesome too, right? Then you're even more aligned. It's not just like charity, but you have like neighborhood ownership in the business.
Right.
That's like the next level, I think, that is definitely going to happen. I think it just happens, it's going to happen at a slower pace because it often will be a security.